Hello everyone, it's Mike Levin on Wednesday, June 8th, 2016 at around 8:15 a.m. and I'll take the A train this morning, even though it was pretty slow yesterday because of delays. I'm going to gamble it's cleared up because it's a much faster ride, even though it's a longer walk on each end. And so what I wanted to talk about today, I guess it's a follow-on to yesterday's Levinux chapter 1. I'm going to try and keep a narrative somewhat continuous here, with these being the opening chapters, laying the groundwork of the book. And I guess it would go something like this. After that initial intro from yesterday that basically states the sheer importance of knowing Unix and Linux-like operating systems at the text interface or command line or shell level, how important that is because it underlies everything, and you should take it up as an extra bit of technology know-how in your back pocket that can work as a safety net through life due to its fairly obsolescence-proof and disruption-resistant nature. But then we get on to right here, whereas I'm going to get you hacking soon, quicker than you think, and I'm going to give you an exercise where you basically destroy the Levinux server with one short command, a command that Unix geeks, have t-shirts where it's printed sudo rm-rf/, and it basically says, delete everything with the authority of the super user, recursively enforced starting from the root directory. And you can go off and do that right now in a Levinux command line shell to destroy an instance, just to sort of kick the tires and get that experience out of the way. Because I'm actually going to go philosophical for a moment before we actually do the hands-on hacking. Even though Levinux is all about the hands-on hacking of servers under your control, starting with this tiny little virtual machine, but then moving off to real hardware, it still is on a foundation of mental concepts, because computers could have turned out any way, not the least of which the operating system that I just, clarified that there's a winner now being Unix or Linux-like OSs, and that's what's giving me the sort of push here to get these videos underway, because as soon as everyone realizes what the bash shell being included in Windows really means, there's going to be a rekindled interest in this subject matter, especially the command line and shell stuff. Forget about the GUI stuff for a minute. Stuff with a built user interface could be, infinite variety of things. But when you start tearing down to the lower levels of computing, it now is almost always going to be something like the Unix OS. So Unix is one of an infinite variety of things that could have become that winning OS. But same with the hardware. The hardware we use today is based on some combination of the von Neumann and Harvard architectures, which basically have one CPU connected to some sort of place to run and store data. Sometimes it's broken into the equivalent of short-term and long-term memory, let's call it, but it always is some version of the Turing machine. But there are other models. The neural network model is probably one of the most interesting ones, because the processors in those cases are the neurons, and they're not terribly powerful. They can do some computing. They got some local processing power, some local memory, but their real main role is to work in unison, in conjunction with billions of others like it in the wrinkly gray matter on the outside surface of your brain. This is why humans have this extended brain shape, to give more room for wrinkly lots of surface area stuff, and the wrinkles maximize the surface area for all these neurons that are firing off messages through synapses, which are the connections between neurons. And so, you know, things get complicated at those larger scales. Things start to look like human free will. And so, Levinux is not about all that. Levinux is taking that first tiny baby step towards that picture by controlling one neuron to have your synaptic connections possible by virtue of that one neuron, or that one basic computing instance having the bare minimum networking services, TCP/IP, to be on the internet, to collect those things it needs to essentially self-modify itself into a specialized type of neuron to optimize for some sort of repeating pattern. And that's what Levinux is about, bringing a single unit to that level. So anyway, that was a pretty heady piece of work for so early in this book. I hope it doesn't turn people off, but that lays the foundation work for why I'm going to be talking so much about generic plumbing of information tech and black boxing it with APIs, well-designed APIs, so that it's always comfortable to do work without it feeling too techy, and how Lisp is the perfect language for that, but lots of people are using Python for that kind of stuff these days because of the 80-20 rule. Anyway, going to get my coffee. I'll stop here. Thanks for joining me. Hope to talk to you again soon, and don't forget to subscribe.